Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the live interviews. It is a great day. We're looking forward to our guest today, who we will introduce in just a moment. But of course, we are just about a week and a half away from a huge event for the NF Hope concert. We are reaching Las Vegas's 10th annual NF Hope concert. It has been 10 years since we've been doing this, and I can't believe it's been that long. Our guest has actually been with us for a number of those years. For those of you who don't know anything about the NF Hope concert, it was born out of our daughter's diagnosis. My wife and I founded the NF Hope concert in 2011, not soon after our daughter Emma was diagnosed with a neurological disorder, neurofibromatosis. For those of you who don't know what NF is a neurological disorder that's characterized by tumors that can grow in any nerve in the body at any time. There's a whole slew of symptoms that come along with it. But the most important one for me as a father and for my wife is that there's no cure. So instead of just taking the ride and waiting for something to happen, we decided we wanted to do something. And that was where the NF Hope concert was born. On October 18th at 5 p.m., right here on our Facebook channel and our YouTube channel, we are going to be broadcasting Las Vegas's 10th annual NF Hope concert. And what's more important than just that milestone is what we've been able to accomplish. We are on the precipice of breaking $1 million raised by these concerts. So we could use your help. Not only do we want you to join us for the incredible entertainment that's going to happen, but we want your help. And we'll tell you about it in just a minute as we hit this episode of the live interviews. Hi, everybody, and for those of you just joining us, welcome to the live interviews. I was just talking about next Sunday, October 18th. That is going to be Las Vegas's 10th annual NF Hope concert. And I was telling people that we are this close to breaking the $1 million raised mark for the concerts over the years. And if you would like to help us get there, right below me is a little link. It's called 10yearsofhope.givesmart.com. Head over there. You can register for our auction. That's going to be pretty cool. You can also make contributions and help us not only get to our goal, but help the 128,000 people living with neurofibromatosis. So speaking of the NF Hope concert, for 7 out of the last 9 years, our guest today has been our musical director and, of course, beyond that, a long-term friend from Jersey Boys, and we're honored to have him today. So he is a composer, songwriter, musical director. He's also a driving force for the arts in Vegas. And of course, he's had a very long career that is still going. I've included his bio down below in the description. So if you want to learn more about the nuts and bolts of it, then please feel free to go ahead and read about his incredible accomplishments. For me, while there's plenty for it to be impressed with when you look at his credits, one of the most important things for us is his involvement in the NF Hope concert. He's been a blessing for us. And as I mentioned, has been our musical director for 7 out of the 9 years that we've done this concert. And that's no small feat. We ask a lot of him. And so this immeasurable contribution has helped us make an impact with these concerts for tens of thousands of people suffering with NF. That includes my daughter, Emma. We tried to say thank you in 2018 by giving him the prestigious Advocate of Hope Award for all of his work to help the NF community. But in truth, that only touches a little bit of what we need to do to thank him for all of his work. He is our friend. He is an incredible talent. And please welcome Mr. Keith Thompson.
Hey there, Keith. Jeff. How you doing?
Was that an embarrassing enough intro for you?
No, it was exciting to hear that my career is actually still going on. So,
well, we'll talk about that, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of hard to see the forest through the trees right now, but
oh yeah,
we'll talk about the effect that this stupid virus has had on the entertainment community.
Oh my God.
But I wanted to actually start. You know, it's funny. I had this issue when I've spoken with a couple people that I know well. Is that I know them from the point in my life that we met, but there's not a lot about our previous lives before that we know about one another. So I was looking up stuff about you, and I learned that you landed in Vegas, and that you had traveled quite a journey to get there, and that you originally grew up in Alabama, right?
Well, that's where my people are from.
Okay, got it.
Where my people are buried. So,
got it. And that you were son of a preacher. I mean, obviously, the people here in Vegas know you as a prolific composer, a staple in the Vegas music scene. Many people know that you like Chardonnay and write songs every once in a while. So the question I really want to ask is how does somebody go from the son of a preacher, where you're composing religious music at an early age, to where you are today? But that's probably the entire life story at once. So let's start with the first question, which is, when did you fall in love with music? And was there an inspiration that kind of took you there?
Music's just something I always did for some reason. It's when I was a child, my older sister was taking piano lessons, and she would play her piano lessons and come home, and I would listen, and then she would get up. I'd sit down at the piano where she had just left and play what I just heard. So, and she would get really mad and say, "Mom, he's playing my pieces again." So that's how my parents became aware that I actually had some talent. They had no idea, because when you're a kid, and so I just pursued it. They put me in piano lessons. Then I got in choirs when I was in high school. And because my dad was in the church, I had I wrote for some reason. I had this propensity for writing music. So when I was involved in some youth choirs, I realized they had these religious musicals. So I would write religious musicals. I wrote 2 of them because that's all I knew. And then when I went to college, a friend of mine introduced me to musical theater, Ethel Merman, Angela Lansbury, Barbara Streisand, and I was like, whoa, this is good. And so I started writing musical theater, and wrote a couple of musicals with another friend of mine, and we actually founded a dinner theater at the college that we had, a summer thing that they started doing, and I think they're just celebrating. How long have I been out of college? It's something like the 33rd anniversary or something like that, or 35th anniversary of this particular dinner theater. It's been going on that long, and it all started because we just went to the director and said, we want to do a musical, and he said, we can't afford the royalties, and we said, what if we write one? And it's like my dad's got a barn, and so that's really exactly how I got into it. And then whenever I got involved in a professional theater company that was touring the South, and they decided to bring a show to New York and put it on Broadway, and that's how I got to New York. And when it closed in one night, it was not a very exciting. It was. Right. But it got me to New York, and I stayed, and then began the journey. And the journey just started, very, very humbly, and I ended up doing pretty well, So
did you just sit down one day and decide? I mean, you said that you wrote musicals for the church, but had you ever written before? Or
no. I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones, and we didn't have all the distractions that we have today. So my parents bought me a little manuscript pad because I had told them I wanted one, and I would take I had terrible penmanship. I was saying. But I would, write things, and I would play, and then I would write them down as best I could. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just did it. It's just something that just came naturally to me.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, clearly you're a prolific songwriter, so clearly something clicked. So you actually have 2 degrees, is that right, in music?
Yeah. When I was in college, I wanted to be a piano major because I played, and so that's what you call a Bachelor of Music, or a BM. Right. And then but my professors were very adamant that they wanted me to also get a BA, Bachelor of Arts, in composition and theory, because I had a high aptitude for it. So I did, and it's a completely different degree program though, because you have to take different courses for a different minor, and so and with all that, I went through the whole program in 3.5 years, because I got some early work in the summer. So I was a serious student. I mean, before all the Chardonnay kicked in, that's what I just had a passion for it, and so and back then there were no musical theater programs. It really was you were in music or you were in theater, and I was in music, but I loved theater, so I would have to do the theater as a hobby, and then the music was something that I just took, basically classical musician.
So was this sort of what you dreamt that you would be when you grew up? Like when you went to college, you thought I'm gonna I'm going to end up doing this. I'm going to end up doing theater. I mean, was Broadway the plan, or was that kind of a detour from something else you had in mind?
That is a good question. I don't really know the answer to that. You know, sometimes I think people are just kind of predestined to follow a path.
Right.
My dad, right when I started college, he sat me down one day and he wanted to know what I wanted to do when I grow up. You know, like he was like, thinking maybe I like, because when I was in fifth grade, I wanted to be like a marine biologist. You know, I thought that would be a really cool
You and me
thing
both. I didn't know that about you.
Really, I really did. I thought it would be fun to go out on a boat, you know, and like hang out with the whales and the fish and all that stuff. But literally, whenever he sat me down and he asked me, you know, where would I want to like go into teaching school or church music or something like that, and I told him, I just came out of my mouth. I said, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to be on Broadway. And I had no idea where that came from. I never really thought about it. It just came out of my mouth. And he went, well, that's all fine and well, but maybe we should have a plan B. And I really didn't have a plan B. I didn't. And so the fact that it ended up happening was, I think maybe because I didn't have a plan B, you know.
Right. A little extra work, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, all right. So you landed in Vegas. It was We Will Rock You that landed you in Vegas, right? And that was 2004?
2004, I was on tour with Mamma Mia at the time. I'd been on tour for about a year, so I feel like I was even gone from New York all that time, right? And I was in San Francisco. I got a call to come to the interview for with Queen, and I never wanted to live in Vegas. I mean, really, Vegas? You know, splash and trash. But but because I got to meet the guys in Queen, right? And I grew up with that music. Freddie Mercury was dead already, but the rest of them were, you know, they were going to be here. So I said, yes, okay, I'll go take that interview because I wanted to, you know, I thought it'd be really cool. I had no intention of taking the job, but they liked me, I guess, because they offered me the job kind of on the spot. And when they offer you the job on the spot, you kind of have to like let them know on the spot. Now I couldn't just say, I'll have my people call your people. I literally had to say yes or no right then, because if it was a no, then they needed to pick somebody else, right?
Right.
So I said, yeah, it sounds great. And then I had to figure out how to make that work in my life. So, and I did.
So I think like so many people, I remember that when we all started Jersey Boys, everybody said, yeah, I'll be here for a year, maybe 2 years, and then I'll take my money back to New York and go get the next job. So when you landed in Vegas, you know, did you think that you were going to stay here, or did you think that it was just going to be the gig and you're going to head back to New York?
I, of course, had a slight escape hatch, if you will, but it's different for actors than it is for musicians. And I was at that point in my life. I was 47 years old whenever that offer came to me. And the change of scenery, venue, New York gets harder as you get older. It's more difficult to do, you know, the 5 flights of stairs and take your laundry to the corner, and when you go to the grocery, you're having to carry everything with you. And oh my God, you know, it's fine when you're 20, but not so great when you're approaching the later years. So the fact that this was happening to me, like so many things in my life, it just felt like maybe this is what's next. So, but also, I mean, Broadway West was happening back then. You know, it had a name, and everybody said, oh, literally, we were told. Everybody involved in Rocky when we came in, we have a 5-year lease on the theater, renewable for a second 5. You could retire on this show, right? And I thought, oh, that sounds really good, you know. A year later, they closed, and so I got very discouraged in a hurry. And then the next show was Hairspray. It only lasted 6 months, and then I had 6 months of no work. I gave up and decided to go to wine school. And then 2 things happened. Actually, the year of the Tonys, I was doing Hairspray, something called Jersey Boys. I saw it on the Tonys. And I thought, yeah, it looks like it'd be a really good show for Vegas. So I made a couple of phone calls to some friends I knew who were in the New York show, and kind of put myself out there. And then I still had to go do the producers for a year, but because Jersey Boys, it took about a year from the point that they did the Tonys to the time they got it ready to come out here. And thank God, you know, they considered me, and then the rest is kind of history. Because all those other shows, you know, a year at the time or a half a year, when Jersey Boys, like, who knew it was going to last 8.5 years?
Yeah,
who knew? You know, So
well, that's obviously Julie's Voice is what kept a lot of us here. But there's obviously something that you've sort of landed on that's really become your passion. So, I mean, I think I've heard it called the best kept secret in Vegas. I've heard people say that it's one of the most exciting evenings in the city, you know, that inspires new songwriters and creators. But, you know, the Composer Showcase is truly like a staple here in the city. So going back to, especially after the show's closed and you were maybe feeling a little discouraged, you sat down with this group of composers and talked about just getting together to show off your stuff. That was 2006. So did you think then that it would become what it is now?
No way. It was a party. All it was a party. We were just going to do it one time and it was going to be fun. But it was so much fun that everybody else was like, yeah, that was fun. Oh, okay, what's next? And I was like, no, let's do that again. That was really good. And that's how it started. Just this 1 month after the next. And before you know it, it was a year. And it felt somehow important, because what it was I was watching people who were writing musicals, writing song cycles, writing reviews, writing just songs, writing instrumental pieces and things. They began to come through the Composer Showcase, but it literally never was intended to be that. It wasn't like by design. It just, like I said, happened.
Right. So now you're at this. You've obviously you've come leaps and bounds from those early days. What was the name of that first club? The Suede? No,
it was called Suede. Yes, it
Suede,
was I call it a boîte. Do you know what a boîte is? B-O-I-T. It's a seedy little bar. Somebody found for us because they had a stage, they had a few lights, they had one microphone, and the sound system was backstage because it was really a drag queen bar, and that's what they did. They did Sunday brunches, but somebody had a connection, and they opened it up for us. They had a kitchen and a bar, and you know how actors love to eat and drink
after show,
after a show, so that was important. And we didn't charge anything. We just said, hey, come over and we'll just have a good time. After about a year, it changed management. So there were times we would go because we were scheduled. We were all excited, and we'd get there and it would be locked. And somebody would have to call somebody and say, oh, was that tonight? So I mean, it was just so ridiculous. But then the people from the Liberace Museum contacted us, or actually one guy, Darren Hollingsworth, he was the president at the time, came to see us and said, could you think of a way to do this at the Liberace Museum in the Cabaret Room? And I said, do y'all serve booze? And because my people like to, after the show, they like to. And he said, we could figure that out. And then what about food? Everybody's hungry after a show. And they said, man, we probably could figure that out. And so once they figured that out, it became yes. So, and then that was a whole new era for the Composer Showcase. 3.5 years there. And then just as they were closing, there was this talk of this place called the Smith Center. And it was going to be opening in about 1.5 years. And I just had to figure out how to remain relevant for another 1.5 years, because the people from the Smith Center contacted me and said, this is great. We would love to have you be part of, the Smith Center and the Cabaret Room. But we're not opening for another 1.5 years. So, really I had to find somewhere to do it for about 18 months until that happened. And then
go ahead.
No, when that happened, the Smith Center, because of exactly what it is, it's a performing arts center. The Cabaret Room was perfect for what we were doing. Right. There were some growing pains, but it quickly adapted, and the staff there, the sound guys and the lighting guys are so spectacular, and they, we got on very well, like a house on fire. They loved what we brought to the table. We loved being there. It's just kind of a big old love affair as far as that goes. And they don't produce us. They give us a break, but they invited us in and made it so possible for us to be there. And then about 3 years ago, somebody, a donor, or somebody who makes a lot of donations to big causes here in town, approached me and said, I would love to be able to donate to your organization, but it would really help me if you were a nonprofit. because it just, makes it more sense for their charitable giving.
Right.
And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can do that. So I took about 6 months. You know how those things are. But you apply and you all the paperwork, and then they review and they call you, and it's the IRS and everything. But it actually worked out, and I got approved. And so since becoming a nonprofit, I just felt like much more important, because now we had a mission, and now we have goals, and now we have a board of directors, and now we have, it actually is working towards something. And then, at first it was just championing original music and being a platform for writers and composers, encouraging and promoting their music. Then it was, we established scholarships. So I have one scholarship at UNLV that's a named 4-year scholarship, all paid for by donations. And then COVID happened. And just decided the only reason the Composer Showcase exists is because of the generosity of this community. Because people like you and like all of our friends who are singers and writers are willing to give of their time, their talent, their artistry, their passion, and bring it to life. And that's the way we have existed for all these years, 14 years. And so, 14 years. Math. So to see what we were standing on the precipice, it had been about a month, and I got approached by Alan and Cathy Glist, who are Glist Entertainment. They said, could we do something to help the community, because I just feel like it's really bad. And then it was, how bad could it be? We're only supposed to be closed down for like 2 weeks or a month or 2 months or something like that. Who knew, right? Yeah. And so we created the video of Needing Each Other, and from there launched a fund. And it's a restricted fund, and we take donations, and donations that are earmarked for the relief fund go directly in. And then we have an application system, and people who are really struggling to pay their bills, to buy groceries or medications or insurance, they have different avenues. You can go to Actors Fund, you can go to Music Cares. There's all these different funds, but we provide one that is specific for our community, for the Las Vegas community. It's not national. It's literally just for us, and that was the whole point. And it's also it's called the Composer Showcase Entertainment Community Relief Fund, and so far, we're really grassroots. So we raised about $60,000 so far, and we've been able to help well over 100 people so far. But the worse that it gets, like the stimulus benefits falling off the table, and it looks like there's no end in sight. People are running out of their unemployment claims. It's really, people are struggling. Yeah. And the more they struggle, and also it doesn't just go for your favorite singers and dancers and acrobats and swimmers, and it literally for anybody who's part of this of the entertainment community. And being in Jersey Boys, there's like twice as many people backstage working than there are on stage, just to make it happen. And they're all in the same boat. So when you sat down,
we're gonna jump ahead to this because it's perfect timing. So really this Need Each Other came out of this. I mean, it came out of this, literally the need to help this community. I mean, and the truth is the entertainment community across the country is just been decimated by this. And, yes. and then we don't know what the end in sight looks like, when it will be, what it will look like when it is in the end, and figuring out what this normal would be. So is that what sort of inspired you to write the song, or were you approached and then you thought, I'm going to make something out of this?
Actually, I wrote the song first. The song came out of the feeling of what we were going through, and okay, this is a little off track, but I had been doing some writing for a Chinese children's theater company. I never met anybody. I was sending music over to China, and they were doing it, and they would send me little videos back of these little Chinese children singing my songs. And it's the cutest thing. They were singing in English, because I told them it's English or nothing. Okay. And then and Philip Fortenberry, my partner, was over there doing some concert tours as well. And it hit there first, right? So they were going through, I mean, we look at it politically, they were devastated. I mean, they shut down. I mean, and the way they did it, they shut it down. And so they were really struggling. And so a friend of Philip's reached out and said, are there any songs that could help our people community? And so I started thinking, why don't I write something? So I started just kind of thinking. So it really came from there, that place of the international connection that we had. Who knew what, all those months later, what it was going to mean. But it just started with a thought, like if we've ever needed each other, we need each other now. And we need to be there for each other. So that's what the song came from.
That's it's a beautiful song and a beautiful moment. If people haven't had a chance to see it, I'll make sure to share the link in the description below this. So you have a kind of a unique perspective. I mean, you're truly, I think, probably more steeped in the music industry in Vegas than almost anybody else. And so as you look at this and we sort of figure out how we can help the community, I think you've already taken a huge step forward with the Relief Fund. But what do you think will really help the entertainment come back in the city, or at least adapt until this normal comes back?
I don't know. Well, first of all, I think that what we're doing right now is part of what we're going to call the new normal. We've got to figure out, technology is advancing very quickly to try to adapt to what we need for it to be. And what we need for it to be is quality. I mean, when this first started, I started having these symposiums with being asked to be a part of them, and with artists from all over the world, and they were all going through the same thing. How do we do what we do we're used to be doing on stage, which is requires a level of excellence and commitment to our art form, whatever it is, and make that something that we can be live streaming or that we can make happen in a virtual way. And that seemed to be the real focus of everything. We all agreed what's not there is the technology. The technology is not up to it yet.
Right.
And so I think the technology is getting better. And but those people who are able to adapt to the new format, to figure out, and it's almost like doing television, because you're really doing it for video. So you just got to train yourself. If you're in the theater, you think differently than you do when you're in television. Mm-hmm. And thank God I had done a little bit of television. So, but it's still freaky because we all I'm not wearing any pants right now. I don't know if you know that. I am.
Well, we do now.
No, I really am. Isn't that funny though? Yeah. I mean, but that's what we've got to figure out. And so I think what we're going to come back to is a combination of the two. There will be live music again. There will be live performance, but it's going to be a while before everybody feels comfortable going into theaters where you sit. The energy of an audience is about being together. It's about sitting right next to each other and feeling the energy of laughter and the energy of tears all happening to a unit, and that is an audience. I remember whenever I was on tour with Cabaret and we came to Vegas and we plopped down in the MGM showroom and we did that Cabaret, which is a very serious piece of theater, into a room where it was about banquettes and no one was sitting near each other and everything. And it was awful because the audience, we just felt so disconnected. And the difference in that and the feeling of an audience sitting all together, it's just, I think it defines what we are used to doing, and we've got to figure out how to do something else.
Absolutely.
We do. And I don't mean that something else, a different career. I mean, a way it's got to be, and it's going to be the directors and the choreographers and the producers who are going to take the lead, because they're going to have to.
The presentation part of it, I think, is the easy part. Doing it and filming it and streaming it is the easy part. What the experience is the difficult part. Mm-hmm. And I think I struggle with this with the NF Hope concert. This is the second time that that we're doing this virtually, and it just it's a performance, but it's also when it really is meant to pull at heartstrings and to teach you something and to make people as a unit want to dive in and help. That is severely lacking, and it's definitely a challenge. But you're right, we're getting there.
Yeah, well, it is. Some of those things that are like drive-in things or places where you can go, but you can be socially distanced. that's probably going to be, I know that there's a lot of effort going into that kind of audience experience right now. Right now, it's better if it's outdoors. And of course, that also has challenges. And also it's better if we can figure out a way to just keep people social distance. And if that is the case, and then it can stay compliant. But you know what, Jeff? It's going to take everybody cooperating and realizing that there's a plan and that we're going to find our way out of this together. And if we don't unite around some sort of a plan to get us out of this, I don't know what we're going to do, because it's the people who are just like think it's all, some kind of a conspiracy to control us or something like that. It's not. It is literally this is the situation we're in, and we have to use our ingenuity and unite to find our way out of it. And that's 100%. My opinion, but I mean, that's what I think. So
agreed. I before we jump to the performance that you shared with us today, I did want to touch on, this is not the first time that you have written something for a cause. You were touched back after 2011 by a book of drawings, and you created something called God Lives in Glass. So if I remember reading this right, that this sort of just came out of you. What is that true? Was this one of those moments where the music and everything just sort of came?
Yes. Well, I was very inspired by the book. It was drawings and sayings. This guy Robert Landy, who is was the head of drama therapy at New York University, had written this book, and he had done all this research, gone all over the world asking children to draw pictures and write stories and answer questions about who God is. And by looking at all these, just the same ask, in other words, to different cultures and religions and races and nationalities, and then without making any comment, literally just to view it and to let it speak for itself. And that's what made me very excited. And Robert was very hands-on in the whole process. I mean, we were a collaboration. So, but then when we came to Vegas, this is what you're looking at is the concert version of it. So these are some of the drawings that the kids drew. They're right out of the book, and it's, they're a little bit primitive, but you ask, where does God live? That's God as a green bean, and, there's God in the world. And then this is some of the art, the performance art that was inspired in the process, it's like, yeah, it's so cool because, once again, this incredible community of people, we literally just put it up and said, hey, we want to do this concert, and we would like for people to volunteer. And the first year it was like 20 people. The next year it was like, 35 people. And, when we ended up at the Smith Center, there were over 100 people on that stage. And this one was at UNLV, I believe. Everything donated, from the lights and the set you're looking at, costumes that those dancers are wearing, the incredible talent that these people brought to the table. And, anyway, that's what I'm saying is the fact that this community is really so awesome, so spectacular.
Yeah, I've experienced that with the NFL concert. That the generosity is kind of immeasurable. And I would say the same about you. I mean, the way you've contributed your time and what you've done for us, and it might not seem like a lot because you're doing what you do, and it's part of your everyday life, but who you're helping and what the result of that work is it means so much, and it's blown away every year by how generous this community is. So let's head back to something okay. Fun. So I have a couple quick questions before we show this. How many songs do you think you've written in your career as a songwriter?
Oh, I never really counted. No, I don't. I mean, I would say 100 would be safe, but I don't know if that's realistic or not. It could be more, it could be a few less, but that sounds about right. But But no, you got to see my composition teacher in college says, if you're a writer, you write. You write every day. So it might not be something good. So I've written a lot of things that I'd rather forget about. But as far as like really focusing, I mean, you could say I probably write, 6 to 8 songs a year and do some math.
Again, there's that math thing, right?
Yeah.
All right. So a lot. Amongst all those songs, do any stand out as sort of favorites? Too many.
No, that's hard because they're like your children. It's like, who's your favorite child?
Well, I only have one child, so that's easy.
Uh-huh.
I get it. Yeah. So the one we're going to show today is actually called "Man at the Piano." Do you remember what inspired you? I mean, I think we all know who this is about, but what was the inspiration?
Well, Philip Fortenberry is the pianist that when you saw God Lives in Glass, that was one of the interesting things is that I knew that he was going to be the pianist for it. So when I wrote the music for it, I felt empowered to write in a way that was unencumbered, like not limited at all, because I knew that what he could bring to the table, that kind of collaboration was amazing. So I've always been very blessed to be able to take anything I've written and put it in front of him and let his hands do what they do. And my music sounds great. So, so anyway, he was coming up on an idea for a solo concert. And I just was inspired to write this piece. It's kind of morphed a little bit. I've used it for several different projects, and it now is a cut version of it. But what you're going to look at is the original version of it, which is really cool.
All right.
It's my tribute.
And it shows off the Composer Showcase, yet another place that all this great music is heard. So everybody, this is Man at the Piano.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had a bad day? Are you down in the dumps? Taking your hard life and taking your lumps. Pull up a bar stool and have a cocktail. Indulge in the therapy that never will fail. Let the man at the piano play all your blues away. Let the man at the piano brighten up your darkest day. He can send your troubles turning down the drain with a catchy little chorus or familiar refrain. Let the man at the piano play all your blues away. At the Yamaha, the baby Grand Pete will play you all his tasty licks. He's got the hands of Liberace while he's tearing up chopsticks. He can play you misty and he'll make you cry with some melancholy, baby, and as time goes by, let the man at the piano play all your blues away. A little Elton John, a little Billy Joel, a little Jerry Lee playing rock and roll, a little Michael Cavanaugh and Carole King, Adele and Mary Manilow and CeeLo Green, Nora Jones, Frankie Moreno, Alicia Keys and Martin Gaye. Let the man at the piano play all your blues away. A little bit of Gershwin, a little bit of Bach, a little boogie woogie, and some classic rock. Roll over some Beethoven and some Fred Chopin. Michael McDonald and some Dixieland. Honky Tonk, Floyd Kramer, they cleared the loot like the Debussy. Let the man at the piano play all the keys. Let's have a hand for Philip Fortenberry, if you please. The man at the piano will play all
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think I've heard that song probably 3 or 4 times. But I don't think anyone ever heard enough Philip Fortenberry.
Yeah, I agree. That was the first time, and that literally was, we had premiered it that night. So, and it's really come a long way since then. You know?
Yeah.
So,
well, Keith, thank you so much for being on today. Everybody, Keith is once again helping us with our music for October 18th, 10th annual NF Hope concert. It will be aired right here on our YouTube channel and Facebook channel. If you see this floating around Facebook, this will be your reminder. We have an incredible lineup that includes America's Got Talent finalist Daniel Emmett, of course, Philip Fortenberry, Travis Clower, American Idol finalist Jasmine Trias, and so many more. So please join us October 18th at 5 p.m. on right here on YouTube and Facebook. Also, to go back to this, 10 Years of Hope, that will be open through the rest of the month to help us get to that $1 million goal. We have some amazing auctions, by the way. You can win a private Zoom session with Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny together. If you're a fan of 90s rock or 90s boy bands, you can have your own private session with All for One. And then we have a couple of other cool sessions as well, including maybe something fun with the Jersey Boys cast from Las Vegas. Anyway, also speaking of All for One, next week's guest will actually be the guys from All for One. They're going to come on air with us and talk about what they've done, not only in their long career, but also with the NF Hope concert. Until then, Keith, thank you again. It was a joy having you on. Always good to see your face, even though it's virtual. And we look forward to doing this more and seeing this entertainment community come out.
all right, I'll see you in a few days. So.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.